Welcome back for Module 3, and in this module we're talking about who is most likely to engage in delinquency. This is Chapter 4 in Agnew and Brezina. Now, there are lots of statistics in this chapter, and I'll go over some of them here, but make sure you read the chapter so you get the full picture. First off, it's important to remember one of the foundational rules in the study of crime. Anyone is capable of anything, which also means that anyone can engage in delinquent behavior. For example, Robinson and Zaitlow, in an article published in Criminologist in 1999, reported on a survey of 522 criminologists about their own criminal behavior. Interestingly, 60% admitted to having used illicit drugs, 55% had committed theft, 25% had physically attacked someone, and 22% had committed burglary. But who is more likely to engage in delinquency? For this, we're going to look at 4 specific socio-demographic characteristics: social class, race or ethnicity, age, and sex or gender. Let's look at each in turn. The more specific term for social class is socioeconomic status. And this being a 4,000 level course, hopefully you've heard that term a number of times by now. SES usually consists of income level, or parents' income level, occupational status, or parents' occupational status, educational level, again, or else parents' educational level, and household possessions. These can't always be measured all the time, but sociologists do the best they can. When we look at children's SES, we often look to measures in education, such as eligibility for free or reduced meals in school. Okay, in this course, we'll typically look at SES or social class in 4 groups: lower class, working class, middle class, and upper class. What's interesting in terms of delinquency is that many studies, going as far back as the 1960s, showed higher arrest rates for juveniles from the lower class than from the middle class. But self-report studies showed little relationship between SES and delinquency. Lower class and middle class kids reported the same amounts of things like truancy, drug use, and violence. Now, when we dig down a little deeper, we find that there are more serious property and violent crimes among lower-class juveniles today than among middle-class juveniles. But these statistics are a bit skewed. What actually happens is that there are a small percentage of lower-class juveniles who are repeat offenders. So they kind of ruin the average for all other kids growing up in the lower class. Again, lots of stats on this in Chapter 4, so give it a close read. Now, let's look at race and ethnicity. These can be essentially reduced as follows. Race is a biological characteristic that separates people into several groups based on ancestral heritage: white or Caucasian, Asian, Pacific Islander, Black or African, Middle Eastern, American Indian, and so on. Ethnicity is a cultural characteristic that separates people into several groups based on cultural or religious heritage: European American, African American, Hispanic or Latino or Latina, including Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, etc. The U.S. Census Bureau generally collapses these down into categories such as white, black, American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, Hispanic or Latino, and these are usually check all that apply categories, so a person can classify themselves as, say, white Hispanic or black Hispanic. When we look at delinquency, arrest data show that African American juveniles are twice as likely to be arrested for delinquent acts than whites. African Americans are disproportionately represented among juvenile arrest rates, but again, self-report data show that African Americans, whites, and Hispanics report similar levels of delinquency in minor crimes. More detail in Chapter 4, so make sure you check that out. Next, I think it's important to hit on the issue of immigration. Immigrants do not have higher rates of delinquency, although this is contrary to the current political rhetoric. In fact, looking at all crimes, regardless of age, immigrants tend to have lower rates of crime than U.S. natives. When we look at age, we find that property crime arrests peak at about age 16. Violent crime arrests peak between ages 18 and 21. Crimes such as larceny, burglary, assault, robbery, and status offenses such as truancy and running away from home are considered developmentally late conduct problems. About 50% of children between ages 2 and 4 will routinely hit, kick, take things without asking, like intentionally break things, etc. These are referred to as developmentally early conduct problems. These developmentally early conduct problems tend to wane from about age 4 into the preteen years, but research suggests that children with developmentally early conduct problems are more likely to have developmentally late conduct problems when they reach adolescence. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, lastly, what is the difference between sex and gender? Again, these are somewhat simplified definitions. Sex is a biological characteristic referring to the type of reproductive organs a person has. It is identified as male or female. Gender is a social construct based on expected behaviors of the sexes. It is generally identified as masculine or feminine. Therefore, it is possible to be an effeminate male or a masculine female. Please note that these have nothing to do with sexual orientation, just biology and expected socialized behaviors. In general, males have higher rates of delinquency than females. The differences are greatest for serious crimes, violent crimes, and major property crimes. There is little difference between males and females in minor crimes and status offenses. Overall, male juveniles are about 2.5 times more likely to be arrested than female juveniles. The arrest rate for murder for male juveniles is 18 times higher than for female juveniles. The arrest rate is 10 times higher for robbery, males over females, and 8 times more likely for burglary, again, male arrests versus female arrests. The arrest ratios for females are higher than for males in only 2 categories, prostitution and running away from home. But arrest rates are a little misleading. It may appear that males are more likely than females to commit serious crimes and vice versa for minor crimes. But a small number of high repeat offenders who are male tend to skew the data, skewing the averages and percentages for serious crimes. So that's it for me for Chapter 4. Make sure you read through the stats and the comparisons listed throughout the chapter. There is a lot to consume there, and it's stuff you'll want to know going forward throughout the course. I'll see you online.